Hi, it's John, and welcome to the channel. It is 4:26 a.m., Wednesday, September the 17th. Hope you're having a great day today. I do have my big blue mug of coffee. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for being a subscriber, and if you're not, please just click on subscribe. Thank you very much. So today, I like to do things a little different here, and I almost did a video on a specific topic that has been in the news quite a bit over the last couple of days you're going to be aware of. And it's the reason why I'm doing this video today. And I almost shot the video yesterday, but I held off because I had an idea for something different today. And all of these things, other than the first thing, are rather recent. I was talking to my wife about this last night, and I said I might call the video "Canada Has No Conscience," or words to that effect, "Canadian Liberal Voters Have No Conscience." I'm not quite sure at this point. It might have a different title by the time you see this, but that's kind of the way I'm feeling with this. And there is a bigger thing that shows Canadians have no conscience that I'm going to show you right at the end that should really, really concern you. But I want to take you on a bit of a history lesson right now because I thought of the way Canadians used to handle scandals with government in the past. And they used to make the government pay for what they did. So let me take you back a quarter of a century, folks, to what was known as the sponsorship scandal here in Canada, also known as ad scam. Now, for those of you who aren't old enough to remember this, here's a little refresher about what this is about. Now, this video was put up about 6 months ago. It's only been watched by 38 people. It's 21 minutes long, but I'm going to show you less than 2 minutes about this to give you an idea of what the sponsorship scandal was about, and it revolved around the Liberal Party under Jean Chrétien. And here it is.
It started with a simple idea: promote national unity, remind Canadians of their shared identity, and strengthen the country in a time of uncertainty. But what began as a well-intentioned government program quickly spiraled into one of the biggest political scandals in Canadian history. The sponsorship scandal wasn't just about misused funds or bureaucratic inefficiencies, it was a crisis that shook the very foundations of trust between the government and the people. And when the truth finally came out, it would cost reputations, careers, and even shift the course of Canadian politics for years to come. In the 1990s, Canada was facing an existential threat. The 1995 Quebec referendum on independence had come dangerously close to breaking the country apart, with the no side winning by a razor-thin margin. The federal government, desperate to reinforce national unity, launched the sponsorship program, a campaign meant to increase Canada's visibility in Quebec by funding advertisements and sponsorships at cultural events. The idea was simple: plaster the Canadian flag on banners, commercials, and community projects to subtly remind Quebecers that they were part of something bigger. It was a strategy rooted in symbolism, but the way it played out would become a textbook example of political corruption. At first, it seemed like a harmless initiative, millions of dollars flowing into local events, helping to promote Canadian identity in Quebec. But behind the scenes, something far more sinister was happening. Money meant for public outreach was being funneled into private pockets. Advertising firms with close ties to the Liberal Party were awarded lucrative contracts, often without proper oversight.
Sound familiar? This happens all the time right now with the current Liberal government. Now, what you have to remember about the sponsorship scandal back in the early 2000s, it can get rather convoluted. It gets hard to follow all this stuff, but it was covered a lot in the media, and it was relentless with the media. Even the CBC covered this story deeply, and it became something that all Canadians knew about, and they were outraged by this. It amounted to about $100 million in money being shifted from the Canadian taxpayers' pocket into the pockets of people who were Liberal insiders in Quebec. Now, what you have to remember about this is Jean Chrétien was the Prime Minister at that point. There was a commission called the Gomery Commission that looked into this. Some people actually went to jail because of this. Chrétien ended up being completely exonerated. He ended up stepping down. Paul Martin became the Prime Minister. There were talks of non-confidence votes when Stephen Harper was the leader of the opposition at that point. But eventually the government fell, and this had a lot to do with it. In 2006, Stephen Harper became the Prime Minister of the country. The Conservatives won after 12 years of Liberal rule because people were outraged that this thing was happening. And then we moved to today. And now remember, we have more media now than we've ever had before. We have more people covering things than ever before. We have people like myself covering things on a daily basis. We have 24-hour news services. What happens to stories now is they get covered by the mainstream media and the CBC, which are paid for the most part, by the Liberal government, and then they get dropped and people seem to forget about them, and people keep voting Liberal. And why am I talking about this today? Because I'm talking to you about the latest Liberal scandal, and this revolves around BC Ferries and Chrystia Freeland. And now Chrystia Freeland's been in the news for the last couple of days. Now, it's really hard to follow this stuff. I'm reading the story about BC Ferries and the government shifting $1 billion to a Chinese company to build ferries for British Columbia. But here's just a quick synopsis of what is going on here by Conservative MP Dr. Leslyn Lewis. So here's a tweet she put out that kind of explains this in a nutshell. Breaking news. Another Liberal scandal. Chrystia Freeland stood in Parliament dismissing any federal role in BC Ferries' $1 billion deal with a Chinese state-owned shipyard. But leaked emails show the truth. 1. The Canada Infrastructure Bank, a federal crown corporation, quietly financed the purchase. 2. Liberal staff scrambled behind the scenes to manage the optics instead of protecting Canadian jobs and security. 3. Even Liberal ministers admitted they were dismayed, but still went along with it. Canadians are paying the price for a government that says one thing in public while doing the opposite in secret. Enough incompetence, enough cover-ups. Now, there is a bigger scandal that's happening right now, which I'm going to get into, but here is Chrystia Freeland in the House of Commons.
The Honourable Minister of Transport and Internal Trade.
Mr. Speaker, our government will always side with Canadian workers, particularly our steel and aluminum sectors that are being battered right now. I was disappointed and concerned when I learned of this procurement, particularly at this moment when Canadian workers need our support. BC Ferries is entirely under provincial jurisdiction.
So she washes her hands of this, but she's lying. Look at the smug, arrogant look on this Liberal's face. They're all the same, folks. So this comes out right here. They're Liberals grilled over documents contradicting ministers' statements on a $1 billion loan for Chinese ferries. Freeland had said that while she shared the Conservatives' concern and anger about the deal, her hands were tied jurisdictionally. So this is becoming a big scandal for the Liberal Party again. But what happens the very next day? Coincidence? Transport Minister Chrystia Freeland resigns from cabinet, will not finish term. So she's going to walk away from this, and probably nobody will ever pay the price for this Liberal scandal. But this happens all the time. Canada has no conscience anymore. Remember this? Conservatives call for other Randy to testify as minister's business dealings face ethics probe. Randy Boissonneau didn't run in the election in April because he's disgraced. His company called GHI Health Imports apparently got up to $8 million in taxpayers' money while he was a federal minister, a conflict of interest, and at the same time he's claiming he's Indigenous so that he can get federal contracts. That's another scandal we could get into. The Liberal government provides all kinds of money that companies that call themselves Indigenous for them. And since they did that, there are 40% more companies that call themselves Indigenous. Who's following all this money? Then we have this. Remember the Arrive Can scandal. Has anybody paid the price for this? People lied in front of committees regarding this. A $50 million app that some companies created over the weekend for 1/200th of the price. One company, GC Strategies, apparently got $11 million for this and didn't do any work on it. Your money. Nobody's paying the price. And then there's this. And this is actually online as Ad Scam 2.0. Remember the sponsorship scandal? This is the next one, folks. We talked about this the other day.
I know that a senior member of the Liberal government's bureaucracy compared their $1 billion green fund to the sponsorship scandal, saying that it was massive incompetence. Who got rich and who will have to pay?
Yeah. Talked about this the other day. $400 million of your money. This is really new. This is about a year old, folks. But again, the media covers this, and then they just let it pass. Has anybody paid for this? Who are the Liberal insiders that got money on this? Who is going to jail? They should be. And there's other things as well. The We Charity scandal, a political scandal took place in Canada in 2020 regarding the awarding of a federal contract to We Charity to administer the $912 million Canada Student Service Grant Program. The controversy arose when it was revealed that the We Charity had previously paid close family of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to appear at its events despite making claims to the contrary. In total, Craig Kilberger confirmed at a parliamentary committee, We Charity paid approximately $425,000 to Trudeau's family, including expenses. We Charity ended up getting over $40 million, paid some of it back, but this was your money. And this is a scandal that should bring down governments, but it does not anymore because it just gets whitewashed and nobody ever pays for this stuff. Canada has no conscience. And the worst thing about this is there is a bigger scandal that is evolving right at this moment, which I'm going to get to in just a moment. The biggest scandal is that people keep voting for this. And they don't hold the government to account for what it's been doing to them. This is the biggest scandal of all. Canada's deficit was $61.9 billion last year. He says that this year's deficit will be even higher, and he blames Trump and says that taking on this massive debt will somehow make life more affordable for Canadians. This man is more dangerous than Justin Trudeau.
And just on the upcoming budget, your House Leader said this morning that the deficit will be, quote, substantial. How big are we talking, and what does that mean for future cuts?
Yeah, I thank you for the question. I responded a bit, but I'll recap it. Substantial means that it'll be bigger than it was last year. And let's look at why that's the case. I mean, the actual level will come out with the budget. But let's look at what's driving that. First and foremost, it's the tariff war, the shock that's created by that, the rupture created not just in Canada but around the world, and
So Mark Carney, who was supposed to solve this problem, still hasn't solved the problem. I still contend he's happy with these tariffs because he can blame everything on Trump and run up a massive deficit that's causing problems for me with food prices and inflation right now. That's going to cause problems for my daughter, for my grandson, my great-grandson. We heard earlier this year that the deficit was going to be $92 billion. Folks, it's going to be well in excess of $100 billion. And he just blames it on Trump and gets away from this. And the thing is, Canada has no conscience because they keep voting these liberal nutcases in. They don't hold them to account and make them pay for what they've done to the country over the last 10 years. But back then, back during the sponsorship scandal 25 years ago, the government ended up falling because of what the Liberal government did and the money they stole from Canadians and gave to their Liberal friends. This is where we are right now. Canada has no conscience. Liberal voters have no conscience. And the media has no conscience because they just let this stuff slide because they're paid off by the Liberal government and they're paid off by you because it's all your money. Should be outraged about this. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications. I will see you in the next one.